Yeah, so thanks everybody for coming out. Good luck this weekend to Coach Chadwell and our women's golf team as they go try to defend their SEC crown. Excited for them and the year that they're having. And then a huge congratulations to Jackie Sherrill and being inducted into the Texas Sports Hall of Fame this weekend. That's obviously a huge honor for him, and he's someone who meant an awful lot to Texas A&M football and still does. And I think he shoots me an email or two every week kind of helping me guide my way through this thing, and so I appreciate that. And so that's a pretty big, exciting thing for him. From our standpoint as a football program, I think 9 days in, I would just define us as a work in progress, which is to be expected. It's a lot of new stuff. It's a lot of new schemes, situations. Every time our kids are going out on the field, they're doing something for the first time. And I think that's always a challenge, and that's what makes the first spring so challenging. Very happy with our guys in terms of their mindset, how hard they're working, the things that they're doing to try to get this thing going in the right direction. I think we've managed to stay relatively healthy, which is huge, and getting a lot of guys out there and getting a lot of reps and a lot of work. They know this because I tell them it every day. We're a long way from the football product we need to be to get where we want to go this season. But again, I think that's not to say that we're disappointed. I just think it's the reality of new system, new scheme, new everything. And so we got a lot of work to do. They know that. They're continuing to come in and do those things every day. We were able to have our first scrimmage yesterday, which is always great. It's always great to get into the stadium. I think that's always new, no matter how many times our kids get an opportunity to play here at Texas A&M or how many years they've been here. Going into Kyle Field is still something, right? And learning how to do that and learning how to function at a really high level in that setting is still something we need a lot of work at. And so, we got about 121 plays in yesterday. It was a good go. We were able to get a lot of good work in, and, that's kind of where we are. And so we got about a week and a half left to finish really, really strong, get a very solid base and foundation of where we want to be heading into the summer, and then, really continue to work and strive to get this program and this team where we need it to be. And so it's kind of where we're at. So questions for you guys.
Down front, Brent.
What have you seen from Reuben Foster, I guess from videotape, but also probably more importantly on the field, and how many ways can he be used this fall?
I'm assuming Reuben Owens.
Reuben Owens, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
no, Alabama linebacker.
Reuben Owens.
Back in the day. Reuben's been good. I think I knew Reuben a little bit from recruiting. I think he was just kind of getting going down at El Campo when I left, and so obviously he was a big name, and I think he's had a really good spring in terms of doing the things he needs to do to take his game to the next level. I think he's extremely athletic. He does a really good job catching the ball out of the backfield. I think he needs to, just learn how to be a running back in the SEC, right, and how to get 4 and 5 yards sometimes, right? He does a really good job of getting the 30 and 35 yards. That's his natural athleticism. We got to get him to be a little bit cleaner at the 4 and 5 yards, and that's what he's working on. I think he's getting really, really good at it.
I remember in 2008, there was going to be a ZZ Top concert at Kyle Field, and that all just kind of fizzled out. Well, obviously, this isn't fizzling out with George Strait and in the soccer match as well. What are your takes on that in terms of Kyle Field being used for some extra things besides football?
Yeah, I think it's great for our university to get that kind of exposure. I think there's a lot of times during the year where Kyle Field is there and it's available. I've talked about maybe the timing of it a little bit in the future, but I think to get our foot in the door and do some of these things to show to some of the big acts and big performers that we can host these kind of events at a really high level, I think will be something that's really good for Texas A&M moving forward.
Front left, Cease, and then Cole.
Connor was number one going into the fall spring camp. Where are your backup quarterbacks? Where are they at so far? And do you want to come out of here with a number two, or just how's that work?
Yeah, I think, and I said this, and I want to make sure this gets said the right way. Just because you go into spring as the number one, that doesn't really mean anything other than you're number one going into spring. And so Connor had earned that right, we felt like, from how he had performed. But like every kid in our program, competition is there. And so Connor knows there's a level of play that he needs to reach in order to continue to be number one and be number one when we play Notre Dame. I think both of our young guys bring, or I guess they're not young, both of our other two guys bring something different to the table. I think Jalen Henderson is getting a little bit more and more comfortable functioning within the system. He's obviously extremely athletic. He does have the ability to throw the football well. I think just seeing the game and kind of getting the game to slow down for him a little bit so it can be a little bit more consistent. The way he delivers the football, I think, would help. And then, Marcel Reed is a young kid, and you kind of saw it in the bowl game. I think he has really, really high potential. And it's very similar, though. It's can we get it to be out there every single play, and a little less peaks and valleys, and a little bit more consistent execution and operation is kind of what we need from him.
Down front, right, Cole, and then Daryl.
Coach, how pleased have you been with the incoming freshmen that are still acclimating to not just college life, but also a new style of brand of A&M football that maybe they weren't signing up for initially when they initially committed to the program?
Yeah, I don't know about – I don't know. Regardless of who the coach is, regardless of what the program is, it's a challenge when you should be a senior in high school and you're playing SEC football. I don't think anybody can really quantify what that really is like. You should be kind of hanging out, going to prom and, skipping class, and you're out here trying to, rush on Trey Zune or tackle Ruben Owens or Lev Moss, or, you know what I mean? And I just think it's such a huge jump. And so happy with those guys. I think they're all working and progressing. I think, you're throwing them into the deep end and they're just learning how to swim. And so every day you kind of see them take steps and take strides. You got to really put your arm around them at times so that they don't get frustrated. Every freshman comes in here with the expectation that they're going to step on the field and they're going to be the best player at their position. It very rarely, if ever, works like that. And so I think you're just kind of working them through learning curve of what it's like playing football in the SEC.
And then how do you feel about the cornerback room right now? And also just kind of a two-parter. Do you envision potentially letting guys work position flexibility, maybe get some reps in the nickel to see where they maybe benefit? Or do you want certain guys on the outside, certain guys only in the slot?
Where am I? Feel good about where we are at corner. I think we added a lot of really quality pieces, and I think that's showing right now. I think, so happy with that group, how it's progressing, where the competition is. I think we've got a lot of guys competing for reps, and anytime you have that, I think the overall play elevates, and that's something that's really important. In terms of the nickel role, I think, there are some guys who are maybe better as nickels or feel the game better as nickels. I think you look at a kid like Jaden Hill. I think we're starting to see that a little bit with Bravion Rogers, that maybe that just suits them a little bit better. And then you have someone like Tariq Chappelle, who I think has flexibility to help at both spots. And so maybe you're moving him in and out a little bit as this thing gets going. I think nickel's probably a little bit harder than corner, just from you're a little bit closer to the ball. There's a little bit more going on. And so I think from a scheme standpoint, the more reps you can get at nickel, it probably benefits you than always needing to be out at corner.
Go back behind the lights to Daryl.
First off, AC, I appreciate the fact that you wore your media credential today. Nice. Coach, I wanted to ask you about the cohesiveness of your offensive line and the importance of that unit growing together to not only open holes, but more especially to protect the quarterback, something that has really hampered this program over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I think our focus is a lot less on cohesiveness right now and a lot more on strain, learning how to strain to finish blocks, learning how to strain through the whistle, learning how to do things that are really hard and really uncomfortable, because I think that's the nature of playing offensive line well. And so we don't put a lot of stock right now in cohesion. We want to see kids play harder and block better. And so to me, that's the challenge and the challenge that we've presented with that group.
Second row, we'll start Carter, then David, and Olin.
Hey, Mike, with the upcoming transfer portal window, you have a pretty good idea of who's going to enter and where are you guys at as far as how much you think attrition y'all have and how much you guys will add?
No clue. This portal stuff is so wild and crazy. I know that our kids are happy. I know that our kids are happy in the direction of the program. To what level and degree some kid is going to feel like he's buried on the depth chart or doesn't have the right opportunity that he wants and feels like he needs to go. I don't think I'm necessarily overly concerned with guys who are clear-cut returning players or difference makers in our program. I think there's a very good vibe around our program right now, and so I would be really surprised if something like that happened. But you just never know where that line gets drawn for a kid of I'm not in the position I want to be in or I think I need to be in, and so I think I need to go. You just don't know. You have no idea where that is for each kid. So like everything, we're going to be very open in the spring portal in terms of evaluating and trying to see where there's value to be added. If we feel like there's value to be added, we're going to try to take advantage of it. I think, it's different in college because there's multiple levels and layers of free agency, but I think that's the free agency model, right, is the transfer portal. And anytime free agency opens, you're just looking to see what's available and at what level and is it worth it at that level for your program. And I think we'll do that in every window.
And was Connor able to kind of go 100%, I guess, in the scrimmage? And what were kind of your impressions of how he did?
Yeah, he's not 100%. I mean, he's not going to be 100% coming out of spring. He's still recovering from the ankle, and so but he's able to go, right? And that's, he's a tough kid, and it's a testament to him that he understands how important it is to get these reps. And I think that's a mindset that I've been very happy with our kids this spring, that, we have guys out there that are nicked up and understand how important it is to go on the practice field and practice. And so that's good, and Connor's doing that. And so impressions of him, it still has to slow down for everybody, him included. I just think I'm a coach, right? So I don't know how to sugarcoat all of this stuff, but it's not great right now because they're not comfortable in it yet. And that's part of spring, is just learning how the system works, taking more and more reps of it. The challenge that we'll have coming out of spring ball is understanding where we are and having a phenomenal summer so that when we get back to fall camp practice 1, we're 100 days better, not taking any steps back. And that's what has to happen the first year. There's just no way around it. And so, I say these things and everyone's always going to assume I'm disappointed. I'm not disappointed. It's just unrealistic to assume 9 practices and a brand new offense that it's going to be humming at the level we need it to be for us to go where we want to go, defense included. It's no different on either side of the ball.
Second row right, David.
Mike, to follow up on that, do you have these timelines or benchmarks that you as a coach, we need to be here coming out of this first scrimmage, and are you at that point?
No, I think benchmarks are useless. I think anybody who thinks you have them, they don't work. I think our benchmark is today. Today has to be better than yesterday, and there has to be an urgency about today and the work that we put in today. So today we have walkthroughs, today we have film review. We've got to be really good today, and then that hopefully makes us better tomorrow. That's the mindset, right? And if you do that every day for the next 100+ days between now and the opener, then you got a shot to be what you want to be come August 30th or whatever that date is. But I think benchmarks it's hard because you don't even know where to start. Until you get on the grass, you don't even know where you are. And so to have some benchmark of what it needs to look like 15 practices later is just hard. And so it's got to be an everyday thing for us from now until Notre Dame.
Second row right, Olin.
Yeah, Mike, I know it's a very small sample size, obviously, but from what you've seen in this small sample size, from some of the transfers that have come in, anybody turn your head or specifically that's distinguished themselves at least to the degree that they can so far?
Yeah, so I could reword that question. Hey, Coach, you brought in 24 guys. Are there 22 you'd like to really get upset by singling out only 2? So I'm trying to figure out how to word it without doing that. I know where you're coming from, Olin. I appreciate the question. I think we were able to add a lot of quality. I think some of the ones that obviously jump out. Nick Skirton is having a really good spring. I think he's going to have a big impact on our team. I think Armaje Reed-Adams is having a really good spring. I think he's going to have a really strong impact on our team. And then I think there's an awful lot of kids in competition. I think every secondary kid that we brought in, from Marcus Ratcliffe to Will Lee to Donovan Saunders to B.J. Mays. I think every one of those kids in the secondary, and Des Ricks, we got to get healthy, but every one of those kids has flashed at times, and I think they're going to add a lot of value back there. Trey Watson at tight end has really stood out. He's dealing with a shoulder right now, so he wasn't able to scrimmage yesterday, but he'll be fine by the time we get out of this thing. And so I think I answered your question without upsetting too many people.
And then I wanted to ask you if you have how might you envision using Bryce Anderson? Because it seems like last year he kind of bounced. I know you weren't here, but it seems like
Yeah.
he bounced between safety and nickel. And
Yeah, Bryce is a safety. We recruited Bryce to play safety. We always envisioned him being a safety in this defense. He's not playing nickel. I don't think he's a nickel. I think Bryce Anderson's a safety.
To the left, Mark.
Okay, I'm going to try to phrase this properly and bounce a little off of what Olin was saying. I was going to ask about the safeties in general. Since you hit on Bryce, how's the rest of the group look? Because that's one where you're going to have a lot of turnover.
Yeah, I've been really happy with that group. I have. I think Bryce is having a really good spring. I think he's really coming into his own back there as a player. I think Dalton Brooks has taken a huge step forward this spring and been really happy with him. I think he is an elite run and hit safety. I think he still has a little bit of gap to close in terms of processing and understanding everything that we're doing, which he's doing every day. But I do think he's got some really elite traits, and we're excited about that one. Like I mentioned, Marcus Ratcliffe, I think, is having a really good spring. Jared Kerr is continuing to get better. And then we haven't seen Trey Jones yet. He's still recovering from something that happened during the season. And so he's just now starting to get into the mix a little bit, but we expect him to be in this competition too. And so, that's not even bringing up the freshmen, Miles Davis and Jordan Pride. And so I think we feel good about where that room is and where that room's going moving forward.
Front right, Travis, and then we'll wrap it up with Daryl in the back.
Yeah, what was the kind of origin of getting to have the opportunity to add Walter Juliff to the staff, and what is his past experience? How can you utilize his past experience in the kind of college game?
Yeah, so Walter was here. Jimbo added him in the fall. He got added right before the season started, and so it's a role that I've always had on the staff. So we had it when I was a defensive coordinator at Wake Forest. We had it at Notre Dame. And then at Duke, we had it. And so I think the role that plays is, you have a seasoned scout. And I think one of the things, and this is giving me a good platform to talk about this, right? One of the things, whether it's the transfer portal, it's recruiting, whatever the case may be, I think evaluation is critical, right? And everybody talks a lot about what is the right path in the portal. Is it to take guys from big schools, small schools, little schools, whatever? The path is to take the right players, right? If you look at our baseball team, we have a really talented high-level transfer. We have a transfer from Penn and Columbia, right? And all three of them are a reason why we're the third-ranked team in the country, right? But the reality of it is they evaluated well, and they took the right three. Same thing with high school recruiting, right? Whether it's 5-star, 4-star, 3-star, it's imperative that we take the right ones, the talented ones. They can fall into any one of those categories that you guys like to put them in, but we have to get the right ones. And taking a scout who's got multiple Super Bowl rings, 30 years plus of NFL experience, and has evaluated players for a long time, that's a piece of this, right? Recruiting is a huge part of the game for sure, but evaluation is as big a part of it, because if you waste all of your time recruiting the wrong people, you don't get where you want to go. And so that's a part of it. And so I think we have a really good scouting staff. I think obviously Derek Miller heads that up. Walter plays a huge part of it. We were able to add Joe Hamilton from Florida. He plays a big role. And then we've got a lot of guys working in scouting and personnel so that we're on the front foot from an evaluation standpoint. So as things happen, we already have write-ups. We already know who to target. We already know who we think in our building are the right players to go after. And I think that's probably a long-winded answer to what you asked, but I just think that's what the roles those people play in our building now.
Daryl, you'll finish this up back behind the lights?
Coach, did you take a look at Nick when he was at Bryan High initially?
Yeah, I did. I said it's funny when we were recruiting him. I told him this story because obviously he was mad at me because we didn't offer him coming out of high school. And I said, if you'd have told me you were going to look like this 3 years later, it'd have been a lot easier for me. So that was my high school. So I actually went out a couple times during gym class to watch them in their athletics period. And he was an extremely athletic kid, and Coach Rogers spoke very highly of him. He just, from a size standpoint, it was a hard projection. I think he was probably 195, 200 the first time I saw him, and then he kind of grew to like 220, and then he had a really good fall. His senior fall was my last year here as the defensive coordinator, and we kind of went back and looked at him again, but it was just always that projection of like, how big is he really going to get? And, to his credit, he's a completely different human right now. Like what he's done to his body, the work that he's put in the weight room, how he's developed, what he looks like. He's a grown man out there playing football right now, and he's got tremendous strength, tremendous power, and so all of those athletic traits that you really liked from him in high school, now exist in a kid that weighs 280 pounds. And so, had I known it would have played out like this, I would have been a little bit more quick to pull the trigger back then, but we joke that it worked out for the right now.
And then if I could follow up, just the potential or maybe what you hope to see him accomplish in the fall.
Oh, yeah, I don't put expectations on kids like that. I hope that he plays a huge role on a really successful team, and I hope that he's able to kind of max his potential to ultimately get where he wants to go through the game of football. That's what I hope for him.
Thanks for your time, Coach.
Yeah, appreciate you guys.